Welcome to Kat's Candid Conversations. Kat McKeno is an award-winning journalist who has interviewed compelling people and organizations from around the world who make a difference.
Podcaster and attorney Marc Scaringi owns and manages a law firm with his wife, Melanie, and often speaks about the U.S. constitutional law. He has assisted with several senatorial campaigns and was a former attorney for President Trump, who endorsed him as a delegate to the 2016 Republican convention. He is outspoken about opposing the war in Iran, but also considers himself MAGA. He was born and raised in Pittsburgh and now lives in Harrisburg. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Well, thank you, Kat. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. First of all, I want to ask you, you just started your podcast a month ago, and you've already gone viral. You've had 100,000 views on one of your podcasts. What do you think is resonating with people?
The war in Iran and many conservative Republicans, many people who describe themselves as MAGA, have very conflicting thoughts about this war. And so it's generating a lot of interest. It's generating a lot of controversy. And that's why people tune in, I think, to podcasts and podcasters to hear the opinions and to express their agreement or their disagreement.
What are some of the comments you're getting?
A lot of negative comments, actually, from a lot of I come out of the conservative side of the Republican Party, and I've been active in politics since I was in high school, but most notably since about 1994, when I started working on a campaign for the U.S. Senate for Rick Santorum, and he won, and I went to work for him in Washington, D.C. in the United States Senate. And then he sent me up to Harrisburg to help run a state senator's campaign for Attorney General Mike Fisher, and he won. And I went into the Attorney General's office as his executive assistant, and then I was his policy director on his campaign for governor against Ed Rendell. So I was very involved in politics early in my career. And conservative Republican Mike Fisher, Rick Santorum, conservative on the conservative side of the Republican Party. And so I developed a lot of friendships, a lot of relationships over the years. And then with the advent of social media, a lot of those people came onto my social media. I ran for office myself for the United States Senate in 2010 to 2012 in the Republican primary, and developed a lot of relationships and friendships there among kind of the conservative side of the party. And a lot of those people are still with me today. But a lot of them have very different opinions than mine on the war in Iran. So I have taken a lot of flack from friends of mine who've been friends in politics for a long, long time. And it's been a little bit difficult personally to receive all of those attacks for simply expressing my opinion and mainly my opposition.
You say your opposition to the war in Iran, and what's some of the negative comments that you're getting, and how does that make you feel?
Well,
Is it hate? Is like 8 comments that you're getting?
Yes, I am. And comments, a lot of comments that I'm anti-Semitic, that I hate Jews, a lot of comments that I'm a Nazi.
Because you're against the war in Iran, they're calling you a Nazi?
Yes. And you may have seen.
Why would that be?
Well, because the state of Israel and the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, is, of course, hand in hand with President Trump in this military action, this war in Iran. And we are co-belligerents, if you will. And so whenever a person criticizes or expresses any opposition about a foreign policy decision of the state of Israel, one is usually referred to as anti-Semitic. So it is hurtful, but it's part of expressing yourself. It's part of being in the public eye. And I think the issues are more important than the slings and arrows that one receives when one expresses oneself.
How do you answer those comments, or do you answer them or let them just go by?
Well, I shouldn't answer them. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, I will engage at the same sophomoric level as some of the commenters, but then I usually wisen up and just try to stay above board. When they go low, we go high, right? According to former First Lady Michelle Obama. So I do try to steer them back to what President Trump said, what Secretary Hegseth said, what Secretary Rubio said. So a lot of my reporting, if you will, on social media, I try to keep to the factual record because that's how I present myself. I'm a lawyer. It's part of my training. It's what I do every day in my professional life. And so I find that if you cite the facts and you stick to the facts, it's more difficult for individuals to mischaracterize your position, although they will try, and often they'll just go to name calling and attacking you personally when you're trying to make
name calling you.
Of course, yes.
Oh, the Nazi guy, or
sure. But you got to stick to the facts, and that's what I'm all about, and that's what I'm trying to present to those who follow me on social media. And it makes it a little bit more difficult for them to challenge what I'm saying, but they certainly do, and they will resort to those personal attacks when they find they can't defeat the factual arguments that I'm making.
So you've kind of opened yourself up to that by expressing your beliefs, which is good. It's freedom of speech, right? You're entitled to do that. That's
right, and it's so important that we do. And this president in particular, he listens. He may say he doesn't, but he certainly is persuaded by those who are around him and those who are talking with him and giving him advice and giving him counsel. You may have read the New York Times article that I think came out yesterday, and the reporters had the inside scoop from those who were involved and were, of course, leaking their private discussions with the president and the other members of his top members of his team. And it was easy to see how easily the president was influenced by the prime minister of Israel on how easy this was going to be. It's just, take a quick, decisive strike, overwhelming force. Will be over in 3 days. We will accomplish regime change. We'll take out the top leadership. We'll liberate the Iranian people. And of course, none of that happened. We did take out the Ayatollah and about 50 members of the leadership of the country, but they're immediately replaced by those who are waiting in the wings. So there has been no regime change. We have degraded the ballistic missile capability of Iran, but it's still very much intact. They're launching missiles today. They've been launching missiles all the way up to the purported ceasefire strongly. Hezbollah was very actively engaged in missile strikes over the past couple of days. So we were unable to eliminate their ballistic missile capability. The president talks about we've destroyed their navy. Well, we destroyed their large surface vessels, but they still have those very small, fast boats that are in control of the Strait of Hormuz.
But they could just release a bomb into a tanker.
And strike fear in the captains of those tankers and the owners of those tankers and the insurance company executives who insure those tankers. Right. The Strait of Hormuz is essentially closed and has been closed for over 5 weeks now. It was open before the strikes. It's been closed to the United States and to allies of the United States ever since. So this has been a strategic failure for the Trump administration. It's been, I think, a devastating war for the United States. We're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars a day. Our bases in the Gulf have been damaged severely. And we don't even have our Navy in the Persian Gulf. Think about that. We are too fearful of suffering attack against the most powerful Navy on planet Earth. So the United States Navy is not in the Persian Gulf, will not get near the Strait of Hormuz. We had 2 aircraft carriers positioned there. they're gone. They've been far removed. That is alarming to me, that with all of the power of the United States of America, we dare not step foot near the Strait of Hormuz. So what have we accomplished for the American people? The president says that, we had to strike because of this imminent threat that Iran was going to have a nuclear weapon. That's categorically false. All of our intelligence.
They have 60% according to the Atomic Energy Commission. I thought they had 60%.
According to the IAEA, 60% enrichment. Right. And they went up to 60% after the president got out of the deal that President Obama struck with the Iranian government, the JCPOA. And that is when Iran began to enrich beyond the limits imposed by that agreement, because the president rescinded the agreement. So the president's decision back during his first term actually put America back, and Iran then increased its enrichment to the point where it was. But remember, in the last summer, the president obliterated, according to the president, the Iranian nuclear program. All of our intelligence agencies, our intelligence community, led by Secretary Tulsi Gabbard, they've testified very recently that Iran was not near to creating a nuclear weapon. That has been the consensus of our intelligence agencies for many, many years. So there's the justification for going into Iran with that attack, that Iran was on the verge of a nuclear weapon, is categorically false and disproven by the United States intelligence community.
I had interviewed a retired commander, and I asked him about the capacity that they have. And I said, I thought it was obliterated. We were told it was obliterated. And he said, well, mistakes can be made. And it was a mistake. They have it there. They've got 60%. And he was very adamant about that.
Well, I think one lesson the Iranian regime will learn from this strike, from this war, is that it is imperative for them to develop nuclear weapons. Because if you have nuclear weapons, the United States will not attack you. And those dictators, those tyrants, if you will, Muammar Gaddafi is a prime example, who have given up their efforts into developing a nuclear weapon because the United States coerced and pressured them into doing so, have done it's turned out pretty poorly for them. It turned out pretty poorly for Gaddafi. He was hunted down in the streets of Libya and killed, executed horribly. So I think that not only has this been disastrous for the United States, this war in Iran that I think regrettably we are losing, but the
why are we losing it? Why do you think?
Well, we have
Trump saying it's a historical win.
Well, of course he's saying that. He has to say that. It was his decision to go in, but it hasn't been a victory. We didn't liberate the Iranian people. That was one of his five objectives. The other objective was to eliminate their nuclear weapons program that they did not have, according to our own intelligence community. So the first
we're told that they do have 60%. You're saying that they don't have it.
Well, they had enriched uranium, and they were permitted to have enriched uranium by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty that they are a member of. So what we're talking about is moving from increasing the enrichment grade up to the point where it's capable to develop a nuclear weapon. And it's possible that Iran got to that point after President Trump rescinded the Obama agreement in 2017 in the president's first term. That's the only reason why the Iranians began to enrich beyond the levels they say necessary for civilian use. But remember, last summer, the president obliterated their nuclear program. So if they still have enriched uranium at 60%, it's a couple of miles below the rubble of the mountain where it was originally existed and was destroyed by U.S. and Israeli strikes. So when the president decided to attack Iran on February 28th, the nuclear weapons program, well, first, there was never a nuclear weapons program. It was a nuclear enrichment program. There was never a weapons program. The weapons program was given up in 2003. That's when the Iranians decided not to move forward with the nuclear weapons program.
How can we be sure that they didn't continue?
Well, our intelligence community, the IAEA, a part of the United Nations with inspectors on the ground for many, many years. And that was all part of the deal that President Obama struck with the Iranians to allow those inspectors in. Now, of course, there are no inspectors. Now we're at war.
Yeah.
And so we have no way of knowing now. But the primary objectives of the president in deciding to attack Iran have not been met. And so where is the win? Where is the victory? The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is still very much intact. And think about this. Not only will our Navy not even get close to the Persian Gulf, but we haven't put ground troops. We don't have troops on the ground. I mean, where is the United States Army? The president fears putting troops on the ground. The only way, if you look at history, to effectuate regime change is to put boots on the ground in overwhelming numbers, an overwhelming force, and eliminate the enemy's army. And then you can effectuate regime change. We're not going to do that. The president's not going to do that. He does that, he will be probably impeached immediately if he does that. I think he's going to be impeached once the Democrats win the midterms. He's certainly going to be impeached repeatedly, probably. And so the Republicans are
for taking us into the war.
One of many grounds that the Democrats are going to try to use to impeach him, certainly.
What other grounds do you think they'll use?
Oh my gosh, they'll come up with anything. I mean, they impeached him twice the last time for his first term. They'll come up with grounds to impeach him this time.
Do you think he deserves to be impeached?
No, I don't think he deserves to be impeached, and I think that would be terrible for the country. I think the first two impeachment trials of the president were very bad for the country. I strongly disagree with the president's decision to wage this war in Iran. He should have sought a declaration of war from Congress, but he did not. And then you heard all of the flip-flopping as to whether it was a war or whether it was just a military attack or whether it was an incursion or an expedition. So many different names to kind of not admit that it was a war. The president said one time, I can't say it's a war even though it's a war because I'll get in trouble. Well, the president needs to be very clear to the American people. And if Iran truly presented an imminent threat, then he would have grounds under the Constitution to defend America from that imminent threat. But Iran did not pose an imminent threat. And since it didn't, if he wants to go to war against Iran, he's got to go to Congress first and set forth the reasons why Congress should declare war. Because Congress represents us. We, the people, we vote for our representatives and our senators. It's our way through Congress to advocate what we want. And it's the way we express ourselves as citizens of a republic. And that's the purpose of the declaration of war powers being vested in Congress, because we don't want kings, like when we started this country, choosing wars for their own personal reasons. If a republic's going to go to war, then the people, the citizens of that republic should vote for it through their elected representatives. But he would never do that because he would never get a declaration. And so then he has to fabricate reasons that are associated with an imminent threat, because that gives him the legal justification to launch the attack. And so he subjects the American people to a series of lies. And that's when I started my social media posting about it, because they were lies. And it was right out of the gates. I think it was like day 2 when Secretary of State Rubio, during that infamous press conference, admitted why we struck when we did. And he said, the Prime Minister Netanyahu, the state of Israel, told us that Israel was going in with or without us. And so we decided we had to go in to support Israel and to better defend ourselves from the obvious imminent counterattack by Iran. So that's the truth. But why do we citizens of a republic have to learn the truth through a gaffe, through a slip-up, through an accidental statement of the truth from our Secretary of State? That's not the way our country is supposed to work. And if you watch those, what was happening was the president was applying maximum pressure during the negotiations. The negotiations were going on in Geneva. And the president, like President Trump does, he puts maximum pressure. I get that. He surrounded Iran with the United States military to provide a little more leverage in our negotiations with them in Geneva on the nuclear program. And that's
It's been said, though, that they were just, I think Kushner said that they were just playing games, that it wasn't going anywhere.
Well, yeah, that's Jared Kushner. He is a financial advisor by day, who also gets paid about $25 million a year from the government of Saudi Arabia. He's in charge of investing their sovereign wealth fund.
$25 million a year?
About $25 million a year in fees he gets from investing the Saudi Arabia sovereign wealth fund. He's now in Pakistan as one of the three negotiators for the United States of America today. When you go into negotiations, people make all kinds of statements, many of which are a bluff, many of which are exaggerations. I think President Trump probably knows a little bit about that. I think he knows a little bit about bluffing, exaggerating, acting like you have a stronger hand than you really do. And so maybe it should have been President Trump in those negotiations instead of these other guys. But he's applying maximum pressure. And the mediator from Oman said that there was significant progress. The Iranians were making the most significant and greatest concessions that they had ever made.
When was this?
This was the day or two before we launched the attack. This was the week of February, the week that ended with Saturday, February 28th. And they had scheduled a new round of negotiations the following Monday with the technical advisors, with the people who, the engineers and the scientists who actually understand the way the nuclear weapons work. However, in the meantime, the Mossad, Israel, in conjunction with the CIA, discovered that the Ayatollah was meeting with his top advisors above ground in one room on the 28th. And so Bibi Netanyahu's objective here was to take out the Ayatollah, was regime change. And so that became then the decision was made by Israel to launch the attack, the war, if you will, to effectuate its goal of regime change while we were in the midst of negotiating with the Iranians and they were making significant concessions. So the whole reason we even launched the war was a mistake. Look at today what you're hearing from the president. The president just a few minutes ago expressed surprise that Iran was charging a toll for these cargo ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz.
That's been happening for a while, though.
He said today he wasn't aware of that.
He wasn't aware of it?
In the press conference.
Do you believe him that he wasn't aware of it? Since I knew about it,
well,
you knew about it, Danielle knew about it, but the president of the United States, you're saying, didn't know about it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, this was about what is the deal? Who knows what the deal is? And in fact, I think the president, especially speaking now to the nation, I think at 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I saw two conflicting reports to announce what the deal is. No one knows.
Negotiations, the 10-point, 15-point. We don't know if it's 10 or 15.
No one knows.
That is 15.
No one knows. But the funny thing is in the press, well, it's not really funny. It's sad. But in the press conference, there was just a few minutes before we came on, a reporter asked the president.
Done it later.
You got to check it out. The reporter asked
talk the president, about it.
He said, "Are you aware, as part of the deal, Iran is charging a toll on cargo ships and ships coming through the strait?" And the president said, "No, I had no idea. That's wrong. I don't want that." And he just put out a truth saying that Iran may not, shall not, had better not charge a toll.
You mean in True Social, he put that on?
Yeah. So.
But they're already making money.
They are.
They're making a lot of money. I think like $1 million per ship or something.
Well, we're making Iran great again. I guess that's, and the president actually tweeted or truthed that he wants to make Iran great again. When the deal was announced, there was confusion as to whether or not it included Lebanon. The Iranians said it included Lebanon. The prime minister of Pakistan, who was mediating the deal, said it included Lebanon. Israel said it didn't include Lebanon, and they continued to launch missiles into Lebanon.
Right after the ceasefire.
That's right.
Why would they do that right after? I mean, what do you think? Why would they do that right after a ceasefire?
Because Israel is going to... Israel is intent on destroying Hezbollah that is based in Lebanon. Israel has already moved into southern Lebanon and has already declared that as part of Greater Israel, they are going to occupy southern Lebanon. So Israel has different objectives than the United States does. It's one of the other points that I've been making throughout this entire conflict. You know, throughout my political days in the Republican Party, candidates and politicians would always say there can be no light between the United States and Israel, meaning they must, they are 100% in agreement, in alignment with their policies and their objectives. But that's not true. And this is one example where Israel continued to launch ballistic missile attacks into Lebanon after the president of the United States thought he had made a deal for a ceasefire that included Lebanon. And interestingly, the Israelis weren't even involved in the ceasefire negotiations, even though there are joint co-belligerent in this war. It's so strange.
There are partners in the war, but not in the negotiations?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, you're seeing how it works. Not well. Not well.
That's great.
It's riddled with confusion. And I think, as I was saying before, I think the president got pushed into this. I don't think he intended for a full-scale military confrontation. He did not intend for war. I think he was applying maximum leverage surrounding Iran with the United States military to put as much pressure on them as he could.
In a sense, to threaten them, to scare them.
Right.
He wasn't he actually, I read the same article you did, what happened in that Situation Room. Didn't Kane also warn him about the regime change goal or the Strait of Hormuz? Wasn't he warned about that? But he chose not to listen to that. Is that what happened?
He was, and to his credit, J.D. Vance was very clear, saying he opposes this war. It's the wrong thing to do. Secretary of State Marco Rubio assessed the presentation provided by Prime Minister Netanyahu the day before and said it was bullshit.
So you've met President Trump. You represented him as his lawyer.
Yes.
So you know him. Why do you think he didn't listen to the others as opposed to Netanyahu?
The president goes with his gut and he goes with his instinct. And in most cases, his gut and his instinct, in my view, have been right. He's been right on the money. And, he's identified, when he was running for office, he identified so many Americans who felt left out and felt left behind. Think about, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh and southwestern Pennsylvania has been decimated by the rapid decline of the steel industry going back from the 70s. And there's so many conservative Democrat voters and even just Democrat voters who felt so left behind by U.S. economic and trade policy. And Trump sees that, and he feels it in his gut, and he knows there's a massive constituency there that is ripe for the taking. So he came out so strongly in favor of policies designed to appeal to that constituency. Tariffs. He talked about putting tariffs on everyone, and he talked about putting tariffs on China, and the people in Pittsburgh, they roared with approval. He did a rally there in Pittsburgh, and he said he's going to open up the steel mills, and it was like the roof had lifted off. Now, of course, no one was a steel worker there. No one's a steel worker there anymore, but you have these memories of back when America was an industrial power. And everybody had good-paying jobs with wages and pensions in the mills, and he sees that, and he capitalizes on that. And look at the immigration issue. I mean, for how many years have grassroots Republicans been railing against unlimited unlimited immigration and illegal immigration. And every Republican president and every Republican presidential candidate ran away from the issue. Trump comes along and he grabs he sees it, and he says there are so many people, so many voters who oppose open borders and unlimited immigration. He grabs a hold of it and he rides it all the way to the White House. So he's got great instincts. And so I think that's how he based his decision to strike Iran when he did. He felt it was right. And remember what he said when he was asked by the press, well, when are we going to end the war? When's the war over? And he said, when I feel it in my gut, when I feel the war is over, that's when it will be over.
Well, that didn't prove his gut was wrong there. He wasn't looking at the consequences or listening to some people around him like Cain, who told him what the consequences would be, as we just spoke about.
Yeah, he thought it would be a 3-day campaign of shock and awe, and that the regime would fall, the Iranian people would rise up, and he would be considered a hero. But that's just not the way it works. It's just look at our experience in Vietnam. I mean, I don't know how any American president could think that we could eliminate the Iranian regime and eliminate the Iranian army, the Revolutionary Guard, without putting boots on the ground. It's just inconceivable to me that he somehow believed that. I mean, this is not Venezuela. This is not Grenada. This is Persia. This is a country of 90 million people who for 47 years have been preparing for just this. And they are fanatical about their own self-defense and their own self-preservation. And they are a very proud people. And they have not backed down at all. They're still ready to continue the fight.
But aren't a lot of the population, they don't like the current regime? They took to the streets and they went against them. A lot of them got killed in the process.
I think that's true. But when your country is attacked, it is a galvanizing force. Look what happened to America on 9/11. Republicans and Democrats have been fighting against each other like cats and dogs for years leading up to 9/11. 9/11 occurs, and the American people are overwhelmingly 100% behind our country, and the patriotism soared, and we all felt like we as a people had been attacked, regardless of our political party or our race or our sex or our creed. We felt we had been sucker punched, and we came together. And there were some of the proudest days for American patriots after 9/11. Look at the approval ratings of George W. Bush when he invaded Afghanistan to fight back and seek vengeance against those who were responsible or were supporting those who were responsible for that strike. His approval ratings were sky high at the start. Look at President Trump's approval ratings at the start of this war. They're the worst, the lowest they've ever been for this president. That's a diametrical opposite there. Look at the approval ratings of the Republican Party today. And they're in the basement. Look at all of the prognosticators about who's going to win the midterms. It's overwhelmingly the Democrats. So President Trump did not get this euphoria from the American people when he launched his attack on Iran.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you trust those polls that are giving those numbers out?
I do. I feel them. I feel them. I sense them among the people wherever I go. You know, we just celebrated Easter, and I come from a large family, and we've got lots of friends, and everybody's MAGA. And every time we get together for a holiday meal, it's all Trump, 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 Trump. And it's all how wonderful he is, how he's the best ever, and how wonderfully we're doing. And everybody would tell stories about the latest statement that he made, or the latest a cut or put down that he gave to some reporter or something, and we would all laugh. I had Easter dinner here this past weekend, and not a word was spoken about Trump or even politics. So I think that a lot of MAGA, a lot of Republicans are probably secretly, privately I think, a little bit depressed by where we are today. Now, maybe that's not reflected in the polls because MAGA and Republicans have strongly supported the president's decision, but I'm not really feeling as much on the ground.
And anybody who would say anything against Trump would be Trump derangement syndrome.
Sure, yes. People have
been saying that to you as well?
Oh my gosh, by the hundreds. TDS by the hundreds. They say I'm a libtard. A friend of mine called me a libtard. I'm thinking, oh my gosh.
What's a libtard?
I've never even used that expression, and I've bashed liberals my entire life, but I don't think I've ever used that expression. It's the strangest.
What does it mean, though? What does it mean?
It's a slur against liberals. They're retarded.
I never heard that. Okay.
The liberal is retarded, the libtard. And so, I'm called a libtard. I'm called a Democrat, a democrat, all different kinds of things.
You support Trump's policies, right? You just don't approve of war.
Just about every policy but this. Just about every one but this. And I explain to my friends, I've been anti-interventionist wars and military actions around the world since as long as I can remember.
And he campaigned on that as well.
Trump campaigned on that, and I campaigned on that. Back in my Senate race, I had an America First foreign policy. And I would say, well, I'm going to put America first. I'm going to put America second. I'm going to put America third. And I can remember the stump speeches that I would give. And I can remember some people saying, "Oh, you must be anti-Semitic." Thinking, what?
This is way back when, though, right?
This was back in 2011, 2012, when I was running for the U.S. Senate. Yeah.
Because you're against war, so you're anti-Semitic. That wasn't Israel then, was it?
Well, no, it's always Israel. It always comes back to Israel because then I would say we have to end all foreign aid. And they would say, well, what about Israel? Yes, Israel too. We've got a $37 trillion national debt, and we're getting more indebted every day, and now exponentially more by this war. I mean, we're borrowing and printing money to fight this war in Iran.
Well, do you think it's because Israel is our ally? It's one democratic, as people would say, democratic, some people disagree now, democratic country in the Middle East?
Well, in the Republican Party, I don't know what political party you're associated with, but I've been a Republican.
I'm not going to tell you either.
My entire life, a very conservative Republican Party, and the strong support for Israel is driven by evangelical Christians who believe in a particular type of Christianity that believes we are all blessed if we bless Israel, but even more so, you've got to get into the book of Revelations, and I'm not sure we want to get into a theological discussion here, but it's about the end times and Christ coming back, and this global war is one of the signs, and so you have. I don't want to say the phrase some people used to use to describe them, but I will. That was kind of Trumpian, wasn't it? War evangelicals is kind of a slur, a name that was used to describe evangelical Christian conservatives who were all about war on behalf of and for the state of Israel. And I was always opposed to that policy and that way of thinking. I think that we need a rational foreign policy, realpolitik, reason-based foreign policy that is not carrying out a theology, but is instead carrying out what's best for America. And an alliance, of course, there is actually no treaty alliance between the United States and Israel, but of course we use the name ally in alliance more colloquially, I guess. That has done more harm to America than good, I think, by far. So I've advocated that we detach ourselves from the state of Israel. Look at the Arab world today. Look at those countries, the Gulf states and others. They are exponentially wealthier and more powerful than Israel. Israel is a state of 9 million people that barely has any natural resources whatsoever, and it really has no geopolitical strategic importance to us. Yet we devote ourselves to that country, and we give that country billions of dollars, and we sacrifice the lives of American soldiers in its defense or in its offense, assisting it in helping it achieve its geopolitical strategic objectives, which are not in alignment with ours.
How long has that been going on that we've been doing that, do you think?
Oh, wow. Boy, that's a great question. That really is a very, very good question. I think probably most notably or most emphatically was in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. I was very, very young during that period of time. I don't think either of you were alive then. You're both so youthful, but OPEC retaliated against what they perceived to be.
Can you explain to the audience about what the Yom Kippur War was about?
Oh, wow. Well, it was the third of the major wars between the state of Israel and just about all of its Arab neighbors. And this one, and Israel wiped the floor with its Arab neighbors in 1948, and in 1967 in the Six-Day War. But 1973 was a little bit different, and Israel was really struggling. So there was a perception that the United States under President Nixon came in strong on behalf of the state of Israel. And so OPEC retaliated against the United States with the oil embargo. And so the price of gasoline here at home skyrocketed. And so if you watch documentaries of the 70s, you're going to see those long lines of those cars of American drivers queuing up, lining up to get into the gas station. And I was just a toddler then, and I can remember that. And I can remember when our country, we had a policy in place where, depending upon the number of your driver's license, depended upon whether you could get gas that day. So America suffered greatly because of its support for Israel.
Same kind of thing. The gas is going up now.
Well, that's right, and we're suffering again. And I mean, how do we benefit from this? Can anybody describe to me what the benefit is to you and me? I mean, is this going to help me pay my mortgage? Is this going to help me pay my children's tuition in college?
Buy a house?
No, and that's why President Trump was so great, because he focused on those basic bread and butter issues, the kitchen table issues, if you will. He was so focused on that. And do you remember when people would say, how can a billionaire identify with the average Joe? Because our friends in the liberal media were shocked that the average Joe, six-pack Joe, was a devout believer and follower of Trump, because Trump identified with us. Those who go to work every day and struggle to pay the bills and make ends meet and put our kids through college and worried about our retirement. I don't even want to talk about my retirement funds in the stock market. They've been decimated by this war.
But there's the poly market where they're making money off betting, aren't they?
Well, that's right. They're all those speculators.
They're making a lot of money.
That's right.
Tremendous amount of money by saying, okay, there's going to be a ceasefire. They kind of know when it's going to happen, right?
Some in the know.
They're making a lot of money from that.
Some in Trump's orbit are anticipating his next truth, and they either go high or go low in the market, in oil futures, and they're getting rich.
Do you think there's some inside trading going on with that?
Oh my gosh, of course. Yes, of course.
I had to ask it though. I wanted to come from you, not me.
But that doesn't help you or me. And
of course not unless we go in that market and start betting.
Yeah.
But we don't have the inside information because it's always changing. There's a 10-point, there's a ceasefire. Now we're going to wipe out their civilization. No, we're negotiating now. So it gets a little confusing.
We're going to wipe out their civilization so that they all die.
You knew Trump. So why do you think he went from America first, like you had so well said, about caring about the groceries, the oil, bringing back industry. What happened? Is he a changed man? Do you see a change in him? Some people are saying his health, they're worried about his health. Does he have a touch of dementia? What do you think? You've met him.
I think he's not a changed man. I think he's the same man he's always been. He needs a course correction at times. He's not a natural conservative. He had to learn his way. You may remember during one of the first presidential debates back in 2015 or 2016, and he was talking about how wonderful Planned Parenthood is. And then afterwards, his advisors say, no, we Republicans, we don't like Planned Parenthood. You can't say that. And so why did he do what he did here? I mean, that is a great question, and I don't know that anybody knows the answer. I know that he is influenced by those around him. And I think sometimes he is heavily influenced by those around him.
But he chose to be influenced by Netanyahu, not by the other people who were telling him about the consequences.
Well, that's right, because he's not influenced so much by those who are around him every day and he gets to know on a personal basis. It's that foreign leader who comes in, who has gravitas, he's a statesman, and he lauds Trump, and he throws accolades around Trump all of the time, calls him a great leader, a great president, a great statesman, and Trump hears that and he loves it. I mean, Trump is human nature personified, kind of at our basest levels at times. And so he doesn't have the ability to resist all of that pressure, all of that influence that he gets from Bibi. And Trump loves to look decisive and loves to look bold and loves to look tough. And the easiest way to do it when you are in command of the strongest military in the world is to unleash the military. And then you look so strong. And I can remember working down in Washington, D.C. and working in the Senate. And whenever we start talking about foreign policy, whenever we start talking about military conflict, you as a senator or as a congressman or as a staffer, you appear to be more important because you're talking now about not about tax cuts or school choice. You're talking about life or death issues, world historical issues. You're making history. And if you are an egomaniac, which Trump obviously is, you want to make your mark on the world. And I remember when President Obama slipped one time and said he was president of the world. No, that was maybe my characterization of a speech that he gave. That's right. Sorry. I was trying to admonish him by reminding him, no, you're not president of the world. You're president of the United States of America. And it's much easier to appear to be a great statesman if you're engaged in a military conflict. But it doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean it's going to make America greater or stronger. It's going to make you appear in more pages of the history books, no question about that. But look at all of the collateral. Sorry?
Whether for good or bad.
Whether for good or bad. Look at all of the collateral consequences, and look what's happened to America, to our country, as a result of the president's decision. I don't think anybody is better off by it, and I think we're all worse off.
Are you still fond of Trump? Do you still like him a lot?
Well, I mean, personal feelings, fondness.
Because you've met him, you've been with him.
I like his policies, and I thought he was a breath of fresh air that had been so needed for so long. Because I keep coming back to me being in politics since I was a young kid, and I used to be a speechwriter. I was a policy guy and a speechwriter. And you get to the point where you're writing the same kind of boilerplate stuff. You're writing the same pablum. All of the politicians are saying the same thing. They don't mean any of it, or they mean very little of it. And you wonder, well, what does it all matter? And no one can speak outside of the box. No one can think outside of the box. And so you're all in this little box. And then came private citizen Donald Trump, who threw open the box, destroyed the box, and started speaking the way regular American people speak and identifying the issues that affect regular American people. We talk about right out of the gates on immigration. So that's what I love about that man. I love that he speaks honestly and truthfully about the real issues of real Americans and not what is important to Washington, D.C. insiders. I had lived a part of my career in the Washington, D.C. insider speak, and very little of it has anything to do with the average American person, and certainly is not making their lives or our lives any better. But then there came this guy who just talked like you and me, who identified a problem and said, well, let's solve it. And maybe that's part of the decision to attack Iran. He's identifying a problem. A lot of Americans are concerned about the potential of Iranians, the Ayatollahs, to develop nuclear weapons. And so he says, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to solve that problem. That's what he is. He's a problem solver. So maybe that was one of the motivating factors. But this is the type of problem that really can't be fixed in the manner in which he did. And I don't know if he's going to learn that the hard way or not. I truly don't know the answer to that.
We've got to wrap it up now, but we want to continue the conversation with you. I have a lot more questions for you.
Sure.
So we'd love to have you back next week if you can do that.
I can. Sure.
And I'm sure the news is going to change with Iran. It's changing day by day, sometimes hour
we'll
by hour.
We'll have war, we'll have peace, we'll have war.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch the oil futures, watch the stock market. Maybe you can get in there and make some money.
Right. Whether we're going to have a ceasefire or not, right?
That's right.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. And we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks very much. Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
Take care now. Good night.
Good night.